Back again. Another episode of a Muslim and Atheist break bread. You saying, Pop?
I'm good, man.
You good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? What's been going on?
Nothing's going on, man.
Man.
The thing is,
Real
life.
Quickly then, so just before we jump into today's video, I wanted to ask you, and it's just because comments in it when I read the comments, which I don't do a lot, to be honest, but I do like to see what people are saying, and I'd like to engage with people who are going to say useful things, not unuseful things. So what do you think? Do you think you've learned anything from this, especially the Hindu part of the journey we've been on so far, rather than the Islamic?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I haven't really studied or done any deep looking into Hinduism. Obviously, we're aware of Hinduism and the geographical issues, but in terms of the theology, then I don't. It's confusing, man. It's confusing now, and we've been a while.
What's confusing?
The melee of gods.
Do you think that's confusing, or do you think it's just a hard concept for you to grasp just because you believe in one God?
Well, I think I believe the same as them, and everybody believes pretty much the same thing. It's just the pathway that you're on and how much, verbal there is explaining it from someone's perspective at some time in point.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I guess we have to understand is in Hindu or Santana Dharma, which is actually what it's called, there's gonna be a lot more just because of the age of it, and it's 5,000 years predates, the religions or monotheistic religions.
Yeah, and we live in a more inclusive society. So in terms of numbers and proliferation of these things, then yes, I remember when there was a lot of churches open on Sunday in England and there wasn't much else. These days the churches are mosques or temples or something else, so there is a swing, and as a result there's a lot more exposure to other religions that necessarily would have been on the back page of the school books.
Yeah.
Go into lots of religions at school. I don't
100%.
Now you'll have Zoroastrianism. They've got charts of it and all sorts of things. So it's a different approach. Do you need to know it? I think it's just more people meeting. So knowing a bit about them helps, and in the scheme of things,
100%, 100%, definitely.
Having an understanding of what you hope is their base value, because again, if you take within Islam, again, you will see there are lots of Muslims who are, prescribed for peace, no war, and then there are Muslims who start wars and is mercenaries and stuff like that. So there's extremes.
That's across the board,
and this is what I'm saying. So the means to worship or have that relationship with the creative or the force that you believe to be the creative force, or wherever we're going, that's the same. It's just the road and different pathways. And then in terms of information, like I said, information is in all of them. You're going to get different because they're different presentations from different eras. Some are as a result of assimilation and hearsay. Some are supposed to be eyewitness accounts or eyewitness experience. Is it real? I don't know. But, we just have to take what we want from all of it. And like I say, stay grounded. It's not that I'm close to anything, If something inspires me, I'm inspired.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where it's coming from. Good is good. It doesn't belong to any particular sect or group. Wicked is wicked. That isn't unique to any sect or group.
So, do you think there's anything from this religion that you? It's not even a religion. I keep saying religion in it, but to say it's a way of life. So, do you think there's any aspects of this that you like that you think, oh, that's good, that you've learned since you've been doing the videos?
It isn't really a practice video, is it? This is more, like I said, the theology, the scholastic approach to Hinduism isn't practice. You know, what do people do on a day to day from them?
The routine.
How do they
kinda.
have that relationship? So
Yeah.
this is practice, and then the guidance within that practice is what makes the gangs. But the overall idea or the umbrella that they're under is always some scholar somewhere in a far off place. So that's all religions, or gangs, or sects, or cults, or whatever you want to call them. It seems to be always coming from outside. I think where I've seen, America and these modern day prophets in America. So, for example, scholastic prophets, like Malachi, Yak,
Mm-hmm.
the New Orleans are the current resurgence of Hebrew Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
So these people have found a voice within religion and are projecting it so that them can be the root behind some organization at some point. Before, obviously, that was restricted to people who turned them color backwards and
Yeah.
but now it's anybody can be knowledgeable.
A scholar and knowledgeable, yeah.
Right.
That's a good thing, isn't it? Surely.
Certainly, yeah, because the questions are being asked now, whereas
Before.
it was frowned on before. There was no discussion about anything, but alongside that, you're getting a lot of things running alongside religion. The world had LGBT, all the other little things that are being forced upon populations, and religion to sustain and survive. Either you're gonna bend or bow. Now maybe this is what the Bible talk about, the times when we won't have the ability to choose. We'll be in the system, and them called the beast. We will accept the mark of the beast because it make life easy. But is it the right thing to do? I don't know. So this is what the big three religions talk about, the consequences of your actions. I don't know if Hinduism is about the consequences more as just get on with life and deal with the consequences later, because the consequences seem to be whether I want to come back as a tadpole or a lion, or within that, or ultimately if I could achieve perfection and go into what them call Brahma.
Yeah, I think it's moksha, and then that's what you go into Brahma, if I'm correct.
So you don't have to stay in the loop effectively at that point. So similarly, if you want to be in the loop but there's no punishment, you're just in the loop and you exist and go into the next level
phase,
constantly, until at some point what you've done is sufficient to allow you through the gate. That's not too far from the Christian idea. That's not too far from the Muslim idea, or the Jewish idea. There's a price to pay, ultimately. So, yeah, it comes presented different.
But packaged when you're on layer, it's the same, and
Fundamental principles, exactly.
because they do also have, even though there's no concept of heaven and hell, there's still the concept, or not the concept. There's still that thing of having a judgment day, isn't there? Because they have them times.
You are being judged to be able to pass through the gate to that.
Well,
state.
even after that, there's a point where, what do they call them now? I can't remember, but there's times, is it? It's escaped my mind, but basically there's cycles of like the God's life or something, which means, and I think they're in the last one at the minute, so there is still that concept of.
That's all, they've done the maths in it and worked out all these.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah. Alright then, listen, so today we're gonna jump into, and it's funny that you reference Christianity. Well, not funny because you reference it a lot, but Krishna and Jesus. We spoke about this. We've spoke about this. So we're gonna jump into it. Bear with me 1 second. Hello. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, it's been back in the taxi. Alright, so. Alright.
Right, it don't work.
No, they give him Uber credits. They give him £70 worth of Uber credits, so he was like, sweet. Alright then, so yeah, we're gonna jump into the video. How Krishna and Jesus Christ are connected. Now, you was actually probably the first person that told me about this connection. It's weird because, like, again, if you read the comments, which I do, when we've brought it up before, there's an opposing view. And I mean, that's not funny because you get that in every religion, innit? So some people are saying that Jesus and Krishna are connected, and some people are saying that it's got nothing to do with one another. So it's, but then one man saying that Jesus says he is God or the Son of God, whereas Krishna never says that. But then I got someone else saying no. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, the longest poem where Krishna comes down and helps the man on the battlefield, he's saying he says then he is God. So I think it's Sadhguru. In one of the Sadhguru videos, he says that Krishna doesn't say that he is God.
As far as I'm aware, at no point does Jesus say he's God.
Yeah, or the Son of God, or
Well,
we'll see.
We
We'll see.
all sons of God in say.
But some people think that Jesus is God.
Of course, the religion is built on the premise of the resurrection.
Yeah.
So no resurrection, no Christianity.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So Christianity is based on the premise that a Messiah, regardless of your interpretation and understanding of Messiah, for some people a prophet, for some people, like I said, they want to elevate it for whatever reason, was crucified, and as a result you have a Christian religion, the other one. But the reality is Christianity was there hundreds of years before that.
Yeah, but then we're talking about therapies and...
This is what I say. So the modern day person don't want to know the whole part. They only want to know Christianity starts at this point with Jesus. But Jesus doesn't say he's God. Sorry, the Bible doesn't say.
The Bible doesn't say it, but
Jesus
people do.
says
Religion does, yeah. Alright, then we're going to jump in then. So let's get...
The more you associate happiness with curiosity, the happier you'll be when your curiosity is satisfied. Welcome to the Happy Channel. It's TRS Clips. I'm assuming you grew up Christian?
Yes.
And Christianity has a similar yet very different outlook on God and heaven, like when you compare it to something like Hinduism. I have a few Christian friends where I've discussed Hinduism in detail with them, and they're very open to learning about it. But the fundamental question that they ask is also often related to demonology. When you talk about deities, when you talk about God, versus the Christian understanding of God, where God is the Almighty. When I asked this question to the Tantra expert Rajarshi Nandi, he said that in Tantra, it's believed that Parabrahm, or universal God, is so advanced that it possibly almost doesn't even care about human beings, but the deities are there to help you. Now, you're someone who was raised as a Christian. When you came to India, did you have some kind of relearning to do in order to absorb this concept of what deities are? And say if there are Christians watching this, what and how would you explain what deities are and how is it related to God? Or are these sort of demons? Are they angels? Is it a version of something related to demonology? Like how?
So that's a good thing. Like we say this with assimilation and how you've got God in it, and then you've got angels, yeah. So I mentioned this before, and that surely angels and people who hold angels up there, that's a form of idol worship. So it's almost the same thing, ain't it? So you've got God, Brahman, then you've got Vishnu and all the other gods below him, which you could just class as being lower
deities.
forms. Yeah, they're
He's calling them
deities.
deities.
Yeah. So deities of God, surely they're just a form of angel. Really, in that
I'm
sense,
going
ain't
to
it?
say yes to everything because all it is, right? There was a time not so long ago when it was illegal to read the Bible in English.
Yeah.
You understand? And man had to do all kind of things to be able to get to translate it because the language was so,
Latin. Yeah.
you know, and the way it's written can suggest and infer and not actually be, the translations are not exact.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so if you go back to the source document, then there's an argument for everything because you're reading the source document. But if you're reading somebody's reiteration of that source document, then you're not actually, as the Muslims would say, on the haq, on the truth. You understand? So a translation, a King James version is a translation of another book that was translated from another book.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the Catholics have what they call the original codex for the Bible, but that means that the original translation of what them copied from.
Yeah.
So each religion will have that. Hinduism, like I say, has its books and they've been there for a lot longer. In terms of their relevance, I say that just comes with the global movement, population movement, and people movement. People are no longer just villages. All the village people working in Dubai and China now.
Yeah.
So the religion is worldwide.
Like, how would you go about explaining this? Because I feel it's a fundamental philosophy that needs to be broken down in this episode as well.
I think what's fascinating is, like me say, there was a time when maybe they didn't hard sell it, but now, like I say, social media has made it alright for everybody to do their thing in it. Hindus been missing from the religious debates throughout the 2000s, while the Muslims been pushing to grow and the church being in decline.
I think to answer that question, I have to start off by saying that there is reality and there are structures that people create to assist them to connect to reality. So a religion, in Sanskrit, often we use the word Sampradaya. So a Sampradaya is a particular way of doing things. There are particular rules, there are particular attitudes, and like the Pushti Sampradaya, they follow what Sri Mahaprabhuji Vallabhacharya taught, and following those rules means that you are part of that Pushti Sampradaya.
And the goal is always spiritual evolution.
The goal is always spiritual evolution. Now, different people, different Sampradayas will have quite possibly different goals. So the goal of the Pushti Sampradaya is Lord Krishna, Bhagavan Shri Krishna. The goal of the Shaiva Siddhanta is Lord Shiva. The goal of the Ganapatya Sampradaya is Ganapati. So the goal of Christianity is Yesu Christa, is Jesus. There are different sects, different religions have different goals.
So you're saying that within Hinduism, there's actually multiple different religions as well.
Absolutely. And Vimalananda himself never liked the word Hindu. He said, it's a Persian word. And why should we be defining ourselves as, in a Persian way? Hindu, of course, is a corruption because the ancient Persian and Sanskrit are close together, but the Persians use H, whereas Sanskrit uses S. So instead of saying Sindhu, they said Hindu. So that word Hindu is really Sindhu. That's the Indus River. So the people who live around or beyond the Indus River, they called Hindus. Vimalananda preferred to think of himself as a Vedic, someone who was following in the path that comes originally from the Vedas. So Agora, for example, and Tantra, they emerge from the Atharva Veda. There are 4 Vedas, and the Atharva Veda is in some ways the youngest Veda, but in other ways it's even older than the other Vedas. It comes from paths that are not mainline to the Vedas.
Today's the day I made £200,000 on a British pound against the US dollar. Possibly one of the most quintessential British summertime views.
So, a Sampradaya is a sect, a religion. Vimalananda believed, as do I, that what's more important is reality. The religion, the Sampradaya is important. And if you're in a certain Sampradaya and you're following it, you should observe its rules. But he always used to say that he personally did not believe in Sampradaya. He believed in Sampradaha. And Sampradaha means incineration. That you should burn down all of your concepts, burn down all of the limitations you have in your mind, and recognize that there is only one reality behind everything. In the Vedas, they say, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Truth is, there is only one truth. But those who know truth, every one of those individuals will describe it in different ways because each individual has a different perspective on truth. Each individual has a different perspective on reality. So when it comes to me, for example, I never, the Christianity, the religion with all the restrictions and I never had much of an affinity for that. I had a strong affinity for Jesus of Nazareth, for the Christ. And I developed at an early age a personal relationship, which I've maintained up until now.
You're still connected to Jesus Christ?
Absolutely. He's my Kula Devata, my Kula Guru. Kula means family in this case. Kula means many things. But in this case, it is the religion of my Kula, of my family, of my physical ancestors. And as Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said once to somebody who was considering changing his religion, he said, "Can you change your father?" So it's like that's something that even if I don't focus a tremendous amount of attention there, that will always be present. I will always acknowledge that. And Vimalananda himself was a devotee of Jesus Christ because he believed, as do some other people here in this country, that both Christ and Krishna were amshas, were portions of the Rishi Maitreya. And so that they're both avatars, they're sort of like brothers or cousins or something. So for him, worshiping Jesus and worshiping Krishna was almost the same sort of thing because he also did not regard sectarian worship of Krishna or of Jesus as being important. He regarded having a personal relationship with both of those as being important.
I'm a part of something called YSS, the Yoga.
What do you think to that? I think it's like, this is why I think Hinduism, or not even Hinduism, because this guy is just well-rounded, and like the guy who's doing the talk, I don't know, I didn't catch his name at the start, but it's right, and it like there's religions within religions. Really, it's just about culture and upbringing. That's the reality of it. Like a lot of people have only belonged to that religious sect because of where they were born. and the parents they're born to, and that's it.
Geography.
Like, yeah, geography. It doesn't matter about anything else. That's the reality of it.
That's how it works.
So really, whatever way, shape or form you choose to demonstrate your religion, or you choose to practice your relationship, the ultimate thing is for a religious person, ultimately, is to have a relationship with God in it. So whichever way it is, it does not matter.
Absolutely. But the way they do is the ink in the water is, which God. Then you get into the pedantics of it, and it's universal, man. Everybody does it. And I'm saying, how many gods can there be? Ultimately, it stops at one. No matter which argument you take, it's going to end with one. Oh, yeah, but there is one behind that one, that ultimate starting point. So, yeah, there's a starting point. The rest is, like I say, we're alive now. Nobody don't know if there's no next life. So all this save it for the next life thing is the bit that troubles me. Where you have thousands of people who don't live their life to the maximum because they're saving it for
the next life.
And I'm thinking, nobody told
that
you
was
when
the
you was
point.
coming here.
Yeah.
How are you going to know when you're going in? When?
Buddha Satsang Society, which is Yoganand Paramahansa's school, and we worship 6 gurus, of which 2 are Jesus Christ and Lord Shri Krishna.
Yes.
There's many Hindus who get offended that I place a photo of Jesus Christ next to Krishna, and there's many Christians who get offended that I place a photo of Krishna next to Jesus. How do you explain it to people who get offended with these concepts? Because everyone's kind of living in a world now where they think, no, my religion is superior to your religion, without understanding what reality truly is. Would you like to dive a little bit?
I mean, it really does depend on who I'm talking to. So if I'm talking to someone who is very much tied down to their Sampradaya, to their sect, whether it's Christian or Hindu or Muslim or anything else, or Zoroastrian. I've spent a lot of time with Parsis and Iranis. I recognize that trying to explain precisely how I see things may not get me anywhere. So if they need to feel that I'm a Gnostic or a Kafir or a heretic or something, I let them feel that way. But if it's somebody who seriously wants to understand that, I try to explain that, Jesus made it very clear that there was one reality. And Krishna also made it very clear that there was one reality. Krishna, and even in this country, there have been times when Vaishnavas, followers of Vishnu, and Shaivas, followers of Shiva, have fought with one another, have killed one another, because each one of them said, my Devata is the most important. It is what is most important, in my opinion, is to recognize that for every individual, there is a particular path in a particular incarnation that is going to work for them best. For many people, it is one Devata, one God, one Guru, one direct path. For some people, it is not so much one as having more than one. That doesn't mean having 20 and having your attention divided among those 20. That means having a direct connection to whoever it is you're having that connection to. And if that connection is one that you can honestly say to yourself, being very calm and very introspective, that is genuine for you, then that is genuine for you. And for me, if I sincerely believe that the supreme reality has ultimately no name and no form, no qualities whatsoever, that it can take on any qualities that it wants to, then I can certainly feel when I am worshiping Jesus that I am indirectly worshiping whatever other devatas I may have a relationship with. And if I'm worshiping, and I have a relationship with certain devatas, like Ganapati, I lived here in Maharashtra for many years, and I have a direct and very genuine and sincere connection to Ganapati. But I personally, they are different externally. They are different in their qualities. They're different in how you worship them, but they are still manifestations of that one supreme reality.
Which people refer to as God.
Which people refer to as God. Now, the problem is sometimes that, let's say, Christians, they refer to God as Abraham was thinking about God, and so do the Jews, and so do the Muslims. And Abraham, certainly, to have created these religions that billions of people worship, he must have been quite a guy. But still, that doesn't mean that he was perfect. And he had his own limitations, and partly they were the limitations of the time he lived in. That was back in a time when sacrifices were happening. Sacrifices were happening in the Vedic religion also. Sacrifices were happening everywhere. And that's why Jesus came along and said, I will be the sacrifice. You forget about all this sacrifice thing. And Jesus defined his religion very clearly and easily and simply. Number one, God is love. And number two, love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. And remember that anything that you do is going to come back in your direction. I mean, he called it the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And remember, he was explaining to people who did not have the advantage of abstruse philosophical thought like the people here have had for thousands of years. So he was trying to explain the law of karma to them. If you do to somebody else something that is violent, the law of karma is going to send violence back in your direction. It may not be today or tomorrow. It may be after one more incarnation or 10 incarnations, but that's going to happen. That's the nature of the universe. That's Newton's third law of motion. Action, reaction.
So these are playlists made especially for you. We've tailor-made learning experiences for you on TRS Clips.
It really is. And the more videos we do, the more we watch, we always come back to the same thing. The message behind religion is always the same. So what really is... I'm not going to say what's the point in religion, because I get the point in religion. I get the point in people having faith in it. But I think you could just have that without a God. I don't think you need to have God to have faith.
As I say, watch the words. God and the concept of God that we're using is why you're talking about faith. If it was a different concept, they probably wouldn't have an issue with
faith.
You understand? But because in this paradigm, oh, it's this or it's that, it creates that. But it's just information. You get me? It's information that's out there. It's not collated in any particular way. It's fragments and people's opinions and influences and, king wants to rule his country, let's be this. If you think of the Kaiser Empire, their king accepted Judaism and then made it his national thing. So everybody became classed as a Jew. So now we have a group of people from that region who identify under the label as another
Jewish
group of people from a completely different region, to the point where, it's beyond.
It's muddled.
It's beyond, and no one, the people who know, it's not in their interest to clarify these matters. I suppose that one world religion agenda thing that they're trying to push now is something to do with that, clearing the waters, because there are so many different gangs, but ultimately, the root, as they say, people have links back to this person and them family links tied in. These people are following these routes for generations and using the same justifications all the way through. You know, they use it for war, plunder, pillage, rape, theft, every bad thing in the world justified by religion. You know, yeah, it's my right to do that because some book said that, somebody said.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
understand?
I think you're starting to sound more like the atheist in this podcast.
No, I don't question God. I believe in God.
I'm joking. But you know what it is? Like I said, the connection between Krishna and Jesus is obviously there, but I think again you'd find that because it's like saying there's a connection between Muhammad and Jesus, isn't it?
No, what we should say accurately is the teachings, not between them. There's no connection between them.
But that's not true because he's just said then that they've said that
Well,
Jesus and Krishna were cousins and they actually come from the same
right. Family.
kind of sect, innit?
Right.
Like
This
family,
is
yeah.
what I'm saying. But if you have a group of people who go into university, they become a class in it. So you can say, I'm a class of 22. It can be a generic term that refers to you
I
as
see what
part
you're
of a
saying.
wider
Yeah,
family group,
yeah,
sect, training.
Yeah.
It might not be blood.
So basically, they
brother.
had the same guru.
Yeah,
Basically,
it's
them
not
two
blood
learn
family,
off
you
the
understand?
same. Yeah.
The same teacher. You know, if you train under Bruce Lee, you have
The same. Yeah.
jiu-jitsu or whatever his style is. You understand?
You have the
you
same
take on
sensei.
that.
So yeah.
So further down the road, then they call it that. And this is what I'm saying. Time, you know, people, right, realistically, there's no day and night. It's just one set of time been going from the beginning to the sun's always shining.
Yeah.
But we get up and we accept that every day, another day and all. This is the same bloody day.
It's true.
You
It's
understand? It's been the same day for everybody. Everyone's lived that one day. It's because there is no night.
Yes.
You know, but as a part of this society, I'm supposed to indulge in this and this. What I'm saying, it works because man constructed it. Some calendars do the maths different and get the year different to another one because someone figured out, this rotates. It's 360 these days. So someone's figured something out, shared that learning with a group of people. They've taken it on. And as a result of doing it, then somebody somewhere feels it needs to be what everybody's doing or everyone needs to agree to. The reality is food, clothes and shelter are the primary drivers. Like I said, the Maslow principle of getting that foundation before you get anything else in life applies in this country and every state of life.
But does that apply even before your faith?
Well, the
For
man
me,
said they use the word reality in it. He said there's a reality.
Yeah. There's a school of thought, and then there's reality.
Right.
Yes.
So this is what me say. The realities are, you need
The Hanslow's
this,
hierarchy of needs is more important than your faith.
Understand? And if your faith was that, then why breastfeed a baby? Because I don't have to do that. He don't have to feed as long as he's worshipping God. But the truth is, him done. If you don't feed that baby ain't gonna be around in this form. So it might come back the next day as a caterpillar. Don't feed that. That's not gonna be around. It's gonna come back the next day as a fish. Don't feed that. That's not gonna be around.
I think this is like you're saying, that school of thought is where there's a reality, and this is again the reason why I am an atheist, because I genuinely live in reality. I don't need anything else. Like, it's kind of like, as long as there is that, like, I've got the needs, like, I feel like you can be a good person. Like, I could have exactly the same trail of thought as you, I could, or have the same good morals, good characters without... exactly. So we have the same values, morals, principles, yeah? But I am comfortable in this reality. Like, I don't need... As he said, some people need a structure to make their reality seem to guide them through their reality.
No, for people need to through what they need to get through this one day, as I say, you know. So yes, to me, the problem is you're using a theological identification for saying I don't believe in God. So when you say I'm an atheist, who came up with this atheist word for this group of people was religious argument. It's a part of the religious theological debate. It's not a reality argument. You know, the Rastaman live after earth, don't say him outside religion. But it's still a Christian theology that's driving that Rastaman business, even though they eat roots, live off the land, based on nature.
But that's based on
But
reality.
the theological aspect of it is based on Christianity.
No, but I would say our reality is based on because again, the reality of where we were born,
Geography.
the geography of it, our realities are based on Christianity. Like that's, you can't get away from that.
Yeah.
It's the same way I know what, like I know a lot about Christianity because I grew up in the church.
Yeah.
But also, this country is a Christian country, so a lot of the morals, the principles, the things that come within the culture, regardless of whether you go to church or not, people have been embedded. It's like planting seeds, and you can't get away from that. It's like I said something the other day to someone, and I was like, oh, I thought you was an atheist, and I went, so what? I can't reference God, like, or I can't reference Jesus, or I can't say that. That's just like communication, and you don't mean I believe in God, but it's just communicating. So that's a thing. Like I will never be able to get away from that. But is that a bad thing? Of course, it's not a bad thing. Like I know my morals and I know my principles, whether they come from a Christian background. I guess if I had the same morals and I was a Muslim, you'd say, well, it comes from a Muslim background. Or if I was in India, I could meet a Hindu, a Muslim, a Jewish person. We've all got the same morals, all got the same principles, but have different outlooks or theological thinking of the world.
Well, if you look at Jerusalem presently, occupied by different gangs, wanting to have one particular spot and be the controlling gang, but they all live there since the last 50 years.
Yeah.
You know, why don't you sell food to that man and that man? Because he's a Muslim and he's a Jew. He's a land grabber and he's a land grabber too. They're not the original people, none of them.
Yeah.
So what is it that they're arguing about anyway? It's just gangs and gangs.
Politics.
There you go.
But yeah, okay, so that was, oh, it's gone, lost it. That was how Krishna and Jesus Christ are connected. Anything to round up on that, Pops?
Yeah.
Alright, we out. Peace.
Peace.